Hi y'all, we're drinking yet another very, very fresh, very, very aromatic IPA today. And it's one I just got from Trillium Brewing in Boston. Their double dry hopped scaled IPA. And the scaled IPA is, I think, their newest IPA, which was first released last fall, and it was also the first beer that they brewed at their new Canton facility. I forgot to ask if this beer was brewed there also. I kind of assume that it was, but I can't be sure. And it's just, I guess, the same beer, same malts and hops. They just dry hop it a second time. And the hops they use in particular are El Dorado and Citra. El Dorado, which is becoming one of my favorite new hops, and it seems like it's becoming a little more prominent in use in general, especially in beers that highlight that hop variety. I think I've only had it in blends with a lot of other different hops up until recently when I had Trillium Sleeper Street, which, just like all of their IPAs, including scaled, it uses Columbus hops for bittering, and then in Sleeper Street they use El Dorado for all the flavoring and dry hop. And then I think actually the Sierra Nevada Beer Camp Tropical IPA right now that's out has a pretty big blend, but not gigantic. And I think I noticed the El Dorado in that beer. That beer uses El Dorado, and I think Galaxy and Citra and Mosaic, and even maybe Comet hops, which is a very interesting hop too. But this one is El Dorado and Citra. Citra is the reigning popular hop king, probably still. Mosaic might overtake it, and I think El Dorado is a little bit more unique than those. At least it brings special strawberry flavors, and like hard fruity berry candy flavors that I haven't really noticed in a hoppy beer before, unless it was kind of added or came from the malt in some way. And I believe this beer was released yesterday, so ridiculously fresh. And it was sitting in my car for, I don't know, not 10 hours, but maybe 8 hours, and I think it's still pretty hazy. Even though, remember when I had the regular version of scaled IPA, it was rather clear, but it seems like all their double dry hop beers are pretty darn hazy, and that's probably just what happens from doing all that dry hopping. Already smell it. Smells like a tropical fruit cocktail with a little bit of berry candy. And it's very hazy, but very, very, very pale. It might be a little hard for you to see, but this almost looks like some kind of pineapple, orange Julius, or something pineapple Julius. And it's very, very pale. Good amount of head. Not extremely high carbonated like some Trillium beers, I feel like, but very well carbonated. And I don't even need to bring it to my nose. I smell so much spicy fruit, tropical mango, passion fruit. Oh my lord, it's very, very nice. And some resinous spiciness. The green is not overtaking though. It smells like every fresh squeezed tropical fruit you can get. Of course, there's orange, but there's some pineapple, but it's not overwhelming pineapple like I've noticed with some Citra and Mosaic beers. And there's a light berry, strawberry. I don't know, almost not quite kiwi. Almost banana, but not quite like a yeasty banana runt sort of smell. I imagine guava might be like this. I need to start tasting guava and papaya and all these other tropical fruits because I feel like they pop up in descriptions of beers like this. That is a very big aroma. It's filling the whole area already. That's the magical abilities of Trillium's double dry hopping technique. And yeah, it's not doesn't smell too bitter and resinous and or hot or phenolic or anything. The yeast seems to be pretty clear and clean. All right, enough sniffing. Ooh, the taste is drier and not almost as sweet as it smells. It's a little bit mellower than I thought it would be. I guess it reminds me a little bit of the Sleepy Street IPA and how that one's pretty mellowy, kind of a strawberry hard candy with the gooey center. I don't know if you remember those ones. They're wrapped in a strawberry looking wrapper. It really reminds me of that, but this finish now is getting a little spicy texture and noticing the bitterness on the sides of my mouth. Yeah, there's bitterness definitely in here. The body isn't very huge, even though there's a lot of yeast in there. It's just adding a little texture. It's pretty light. They only use some couple different kinds of wheat. I think white wheat and flaked wheat, and then some dextrose, and then some C15, which I think is just a touch of light caramel or caramels or something. Otherwise, it's mostly just two-row pale barley. Yeah, there's some really interesting smells in there. It's not overtaken by the Citra. I'm glad that the El Dorado is making itself known. It's almost a little hard to describe. But I'm not really getting hot, oniony, arugula, anything going on. Not much yet. A little bit of some dank heat. But not too funky or sweaty, though those flavors seem to come out more when it is warmer and it's still very cold. It was actually sitting in the trunk of my car and it's like under 20 degrees out, so might be a little bit too cold, even though I like my IPAs to start off cold. I don't want to finish them and they're still ice cold. There's flavors that you're missing in there. But there's a good amount of carbonation I'm seeing. I think it's just that maybe the intense, unfiltered quality prevents the head from sticking too massive, but there's still plenty of rings and a cap of foam on there. Ooh, there's something in there that's almost like honey, herbal tea, maybe sumac. It's that kind of woodsy, spicy, slightly berry-ish tea flavor. I think they said damp earth on their website, which was one of the things that the secondary dry hopping brings into this, and I think that's a good description. It's not too vegetal and dank and like weed stems. Yeah, it's a little bit just a very slight, soft, woodsy, peppercorn style berry. Not necessarily that there's much peppercorn in here, but stuff like sumac, those kinds of things that I think are technically berries. I think that's the spiciness that I'm noticing in here. Now I notice a little bit of some alcohol. It is 7% alcohol, but the heat is handled fine with the bitterness and everything. It's a little bit like a smoothie, actually. Some smoothie where you have mangoes and a little bit of pineapple, so many fresh fruits fresh squeezed orange juice, and then you put in some sumac berries or something like that. Maybe just a few of the green tips of some green onions. Well, it doesn't have much of a body or sweetness like a smoothie or a shake or something like that. But the bitterness is not too much. Like I've had some of the Trillium IPAs are on the edge of being a little too bitter for me almost. And this is very drinkable. The bitterness is not lingering. Really well made. And very, very dry, though it retains a juicy taste and feel on the tongue. It's, I think, drier than a lot of other IPAs and double IPAs that are trying to do this kind of juiciness, but bringing it out with a little bit of sweetness from the malt. This one's not really doing that. And it just smells like so many different fruity, berry hard candies mixed with tropical fruit juice. And the burps are very nice. If it weren't for the firm bitterness, you might be able to give it to someone and say, hey, this is some like super unfiltered wheat beer brewed with some fruit or something, some fresh fruit. But it still has that clear, hoppy resinous cut to it. And there's floral qualities that are kind of pungent floral aromas and flavors that linger. Almost like lavender, but not as cinnamony as I feel like lavender is when you actually use it in beers. But lavender, maybe some coriander, lemon, lime peel too. I definitely notice now after a while, it kind of lingers on your tongue as if you've had a little bit of Sprite or something. Very nice. And grapefruit is in the mix. Like some people, and I often notice that like I'm naming all these different flavors and everything, and it's very complex. But then the overwhelming, clearest description of the flavor might be grapefruit with a finish of lime or something like that. But like ruby red grapefruit a little bit. I don't know. It's kind of white grapefruit. It's not sweet enough or something to be ruby red. It's like no notice of like what the yeast is doing. I think the yeast is the secret weapon in this. Somehow the yeast is just helping to bring out all those hop flavors. But you don't notice it. I think I'm gonna have to give this one a pretty high score. It's not quite as good as the double dry hop 4-point, I don't think. I like to try their double dry hop Sleeper Street, which is their only or mainly El Dorado beer. And I'm gonna give this one like a 9. It's very good. I don't think it would disappoint any juicy IPA lover, and it has some of the classic Citra flavors and everything. Well, there's enough of a special woodsy berryness that comes from the El Dorado to make it something really special. So 9 out of 10. Double dry hop scaled from Trillium. Bye bye.